Hey everyone, welcome to the Joomla conference. I'm delighted to have Mike Demo back with us again for the second year of the conference. And I've been telling people this is almost like the cornerstone presentation of the conference, or at least the one that best explains why we're doing this. Mike was a constant traveler before the COVID lockdown started. And as much as anyone, he's had to learn how to adjust to being at home and trying to make human connections and trying to reach out and meet people and network with people from his home office. And this is something we're all faced with. Maybe not as much as Mike, but it's a problem that has impacted all of us this year. And so I'm really excited to learn from Mike about what he's learned about having a human connection in 2020, having a human connection in a COVID-19 world. Mike, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Steve. So excited to be here at the second year for the Joomla conference. It is nice and early, 8 a.m. here in Minnesota, where I live, which is a little bit colder than where you are down in Florida, but I'm so happy to be joined by everyone around the world. And yeah, I used to travel about 150 days a year. I haven't been home this long in 5 years. My wife's happier, but her boyfriend less so. But let's get right into it, and I'll give a little demo talk, and we'll go from there. So my name is Mike Demo. I'm the lead handshaker for Web Ventures. Web Ventures invests in web authoring technologies and companies. So things like WordPress plugins, hosting companies, SaaS providers that help people author content online. I'm also an evangelist for BoldGrid, which is a suite of WordPress plugins that help people create WordPress experiences. Before that, in the Joomla world, I used to be the treasurer of Joomla for a couple of years, about 2.5 years. So I'm happy to have served in that. And Joomla was my first CMS. And no matter what CMS you use, we all have to be able to make human connections. If you want to get a hold of me, all of my socials are on the screen. Twitter is probably the best way to get a hold of me, at @MPMike. Otherwise, my other stuff is listed there as well. So let's go back to New Year's Eve, 2019. It was right before the start of 2020. Everyone was hopeful. We were all excited for a nice round number of 2020. It was going to be the year that we were going to get everything done. We were all excited. We watched on New Year's Eve the ball drop or the fireworks or whatever you do on New Year's Eve. And then the single most defining event that was going to define the year. It was on every news station. You couldn't read a newspaper, go on Twitter, go on social media without seeing photos or statistics from the thing that was going to affect 2020. I am, of course, talking about the Australia wildfires. Yeah, that happened this year, the year we are in right now. And then there was this little thing called COVID, right? So obviously the world looks a lot different than it did a year ago. We are all having to work differently. We are all having to experience entertainment differently. A lot of movie theaters are closed. Most live entertainment venues are closed. Sports are closed. I have tickets for our local soccer club, and we haven't been to a match all year. The playoffs just ended. They lost in the semifinals, but it's all different, right? Haven't been to a Broadway show in a long time either. But work's also changed, but also how we connect with each other. We're not seeing our friends. We might not be seeing our family. We're definitely not seeing our coworkers. But we talk about having a human connection, and it's very important. And it's something that is more important, not just for your coworkers, not just for your friends, but also for your clients or possibly the stakeholders and just kind of everyone you come in contact with. We are so used to pivoting to this Zoom world and, focusing on getting the work done. And work is getting done. Please have no mistake. But a lot of people do feel like they're isolated in these little bubbles. I know in the US, every Zoom meeting starts with, "Oh, how are you?" And it's just common courtesy to ask how people are doing. I know that's not common in other parts of the world, but it's not really genuine, right? It's just something that happens. Like, Steve when I came on this call, he's like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, good. How are you doing?" Nobody says when when they ask that question in a work setting, "How are you doing?" And if Steve would have been like, "Well, I'm having an awful, awful day. My fish died, and I burnt the turkey, and our car broke down," and then that just isn't a thing that happens usually. So COVID-19 has kind of changed how we do it. So we first want to look at people's mental health and mental well-being. This is a hard year, and everybody's dealing with this differently. Some people, even though they say they're introverts, they still need some sort of human connection. Now, it doesn't mean they want to go out to the bar, when everything opens back up, but at some level, people do need some sort of, assurance that they're kind of not in this alone, that people are there to support them. Even just knowing that fact is important, no matter where you fall on the I love hanging out with people or it's not my thing, or wherever you are on the spectrum. So how do you have a connection? So we are in this world where we physically can't be in the same space. That's why we're doing this conference virtually. So how can you have a connection? Well, we're going to talk about some different ideas and things that you can do to have a connection, and the pros and cons, and ways that you can use it, for your friends, for your colleagues, for your clients. And everything I'm going to say here, I'm going to preface this is not a sales strategy. This isn't something you do to make more money or to close the next deal. Will some of these things have those effects? Yes, and I'll talk about some statistics later on. But all of these things will not work, full stop, if you don't appear genuine. If it comes off as salesy or bulk emaily or just fake, people can smell fake from a mile away. This isn't the time to try to sell your next support package or your next project. This is the time to really try to, reach out to people and get to know how they're doing. So with that, this is a picture of the last human connection I had in the workspace. This was the last night of WordCamp Miami. This was on March 1st of this year. Right after this happened, we were all at the Mai Kai Tiki Bar in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then the next day I flew home and everything shut down. I was at WordCamp Miami because I was supposed to be at WordCamp Asia in Thailand, but that canceled just a week prior. It was supposed to be that same weekend, so I rebooked my stuff to WordCamp Miami. So this is what I used to do for a living. Someone on Twitter said, "Explain what you do in less than 5 words." And I said, "I take people to dinner." And literally that's what I do. I get paid to take people out to dinner. There's a little bit more to it. But in its essence, I am a glorified meal ticket. That being said, I enjoy it. I love hanging out with people, and I love getting to know people. I owe my job to just human connection. Actually, at the Joomla World Conference in Mexico, I met Todd, who's the co-owner of the company I'm at, because it's part of InMotion Hosting. Web Ventures is part of InMotion Hosting. And I invited him to a snorkeling excursion that I had booked. And he was so excited. We went snorkeling, had a good time. I saw him a couple years later in New Orleans when I was working the Joomla booth at HostingCon. He's like, "Hey, Demo, you probably don't remember me." I'm like, "Yeah, Todd, we went snorkeling in Mexico." He's like, "How do you remember that?" And it's just like, it's what I do. Hanging out with people and making these connections is my passion. And then a couple conversations later, I became the evangelist of one of his new ventures, which was Boldgood at the time. So this stuff really does pay off. But we can't do this anymore. So what can we do? Well, you can email people. Yes, email. Good old-fashioned email. This doesn't mean MailChimp newsletters. It means a personal, non-salesy email that is usually plain text, maybe your signature on the bottom, where you're just asking how people are doing. You're checking in on people on a one-to-one basis. This isn't one-to-many. You don't want to mail merge this. Say, "Hi, name, how are you doing? Please respond." No, you want this to be personal. An example of ways that you can do personal email is I gave a webinar a few months ago, and I got a list of all the attendees. I made a personal video for every attendee that attended. It was about 100, it was about 100 or something people. It took me a couple hours. And I just embedded those videos in the email. And it wasn't salesy. There was no upsell. It was just like, hey, Bill, thanks so much for attending my talk. Hope you got something out of it. The link to the recording is down below. If I can do anything for you personally, just click reply. And the response was great. It was so great. And they ended up sharing that video and sharing my talk, which ended up getting more views and more exposure. But again, it was just me reaching out, asking how people were doing. I send emails to people all the time asking, oh, you got a new puppy. Awesome. I saw that on Twitter. Or you just had a kid or a grandkid or whatever the case may be. Ask how people are doing. I have conversations with people, in my sphere on a weekly basis sometimes about the health issues that parents are experiencing right now with COVID, to the struggles of having to do Zoom school and having to work at the same time, to issues that they might be having with their pets, or just what's exciting in their life. What's it like to be newly married, or if they got married remotely or something like that, and just having these natural conversations. And always end it with, if I can do anything for you, don't hesitate to reach out. Not, if you need more services, please don't hesitate to reach out. This is, if you can help people naturally, the karma stuff will naturally come back to play. So email's one thing. It's a little less personal, but it's something you can do. You can pick up the phone and call somebody. Nobody calls people anymore. And I don't necessarily mean Zoom. Zoom is okay, but we have Zoom fatigue right now. There's so many Zoom meetings and Zoom calls. And yes, I know we're in a Zoom meeting right now. But, picking up the phone and actually having a conversation with someone and doing the same things we just talked about, the email, checking in, quick 5 minutes, asking how people are doing, it makes a difference and it makes people feel good. And it's easy and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to take a little time to pick up the phone. And I know what you're thinking, oh, well, my clients or my colleagues, they don't like phone calls. They prefer text. They prefer email. They prefer Slack. They say they prefer that, but they don't. Nobody does. Yes, I know that you probably prefer email over phone calls for meetings. You probably prefer Slack over Zoom for meetings or sales calls or things like that. But for a quick 5 minutes, just checking in, hearing someone's voice matters. Because when we're physically with someone, there's something magical that happens when you're in the same room as someone. Being able to see the whites of somebody's eyes, being able to break bread with somebody, it changes your relationship with them at a fundamental level that you can't replace easily with text communication. You also lose tact in text communication, which can get you in trouble depending on what jokes you're trying to tell or something. So phone calls are a great way, and people really do appreciate them. You can do video content. Video content's great. Things like this. Caution on this is, if you get video content, keep it short. Don't do like a 10-hour long webinar. Make sure the content's educational, not salesy, adds value, or just make it different. Make it something exciting. I went to some conferences that they had a couple sessions that were just fun. Like one session was a juggler show. Another session was a magic show. Another session was a rescue dog trick show. Animal actor show, or bird show. And I've done some things this year with video with people in our communities where we did virtual escape rooms, where we had different people come together and we just did virtual escape rooms, and we just had an experience together, but be socially distanced. So be creative on your video content. And this, not just sales demos, because people are sick of just seeing demos for plugins or products, because that's all anyone sees nowadays. Physical mail. Physical mail is so magical. You can send out cards for people, for things like holidays, or for the new year, or for their birthdays, or better yet, for their half birthdays. Nobody sends out cards for people's half birthdays, but everyone gets a card on their birthday. Well, hopefully everyone gets a card on their birthday. So physical cards can help. But I'm a big fan of lumpy mail. Boxes, things that have weight to them. I'll give you some examples in a little bit of things I sent out, but things that are boxes are like presents, and they usually get opened by the recipient. How many times have you worked at a company where like the president or director doesn't open their own mail? They have an admin open all the mail and figure out what they need to see. But most of the time, the packages get opened by the person they're sent to. This is actually a trick I learned a long time ago, that if you needed to, get attention of a Fortune 500 CEO, you send a overnight FedEx Express box with your letter inside of it. And it will usually 9 times out of 10 be opened by the actual person you're trying to send it to. Another thing you can do for physical stuff is send a physical telegram. Yes, they still exist. I've sent telegrams multiple times, even in the last couple of years, and I've never not gotten an amazing response when people open up a telegram. Now, telegrams are expensive. You pay per letter. So they're not cheap, but it's kind of a fun thing that you can do. And
wait, Mike, how would you even send a telegram in 2020?
Sure, there's a couple services out there. iTelegram is probably the largest. They bought Western Union's wire network. So, and there's some other companies out there. Now there's 2 types of digital telegrams. One of them are real telegrams that still get transferred via wire and then delivered by a telegram messenger. And then there's ones that will just print it out and look like a telegram and just drop it in, the mail. So, those are the 2 different types. One's a real physical telegram. The other one is a telegram inspired message, I guess. But iTelegram, if my memory's correct, bought Western Union's network. And I believe that's the one that we've been using. For our communications and things. Embrace your weirdness. Now, if a telegram's not weird enough, think about what makes sense to you. Figure out what your clients or who you're communicating with is into. Just the last week, I sent a Jurassic Park life-size hatching raptor egg to someone to one of the Web Ventures clients. And yeah, it was a little expensive, but this guy is super into Jurassic Park, and I knew he would get a kick out of it. I've sent other things, I've sent stuffed animals, I've sent pasta. There's so many different things you can do. Like, this is just a sample of some of the things that I've sent out recently. The upper left is a custom plush of the company's mascot. There's companies that will do this for you. The middle, I sent to a bunch of people, custom coffee mugs at the beginning of the pandemic to people with a little note. These things cost me like $15 shipped with the personalization. The bottom left is I sent 80 pounds of pasta to tons of people. And I mean literally 80 pounds of pasta. And it only cost me $19. And I had a funny little note that I handwritten note that came with it, and everybody got a huge kick out of it. The upper right, when I send a prospective leads, I don't send them swag. I send them a pitch deck in a ViewMaster, one of the little ViewMaster slide things, along with some other things. I've sent boxes of cookies. I think, Steve, you've gotten some of my boxes of cookies when you sponsored some of the Joomla stuff in the past.
Can I get an 80-pound bag of pasta as well?
Sorry, I'm all out of the pasta. The palette's gone. But maybe next year I can get you some pasta. But it's all weird stuff. And think about stuff that makes you smile, because when I come up with stuff, I know I have a winner when my wife is like, "That is stupid. That is not professional. Don't do that at all." But if it makes me laugh, I'm going to do it anyway. And I've yet to find it not work. Now, please make sure everything you send is appropriate. Don't send anything adult or, that somebody could take offense to, just because that's just not kosher. It's not a good idea. But just there's so many fun different things you can send. Because people remember experiences and talk about experiences. They won't always remember you. They don't always remember your company. They won't even always remember your service. But they'll remember experiences. And that is how you get referrals and people talking about the experiences and eventually talking about your business. This is a long-term play to grow your business or your reputation. And this works even if you don't have clients, if you're just trying to help connect with friends and things. For the holidays, I'm going to be sending out little virtual escape room gift cards to some friends and family. And it can be weird stuff. Like for people's weddings, I send them Taco Bell gift cards that are themed for the wedding. And Taco Bell makes these. Apparently it's a thing. But people find it hilarious because they're like, "Oh my God, you sent me a Taco Bell gift card for my wedding or my birthday or whatever. Taco Bell is a thing where you can send a taco for like $2 to anyone in the in the U.S. and then they can redeem their taco wherever they like. So it's just doesn't have to be a lot. And like we talked about some free stuff earlier, but people talk about experiences and remember them. It also makes financial sense. According to Marketing Matrix, you are 5 times more likely to close a deal through an existing relationship. Bain & Company says it costs 7 times more to land a new client than to sell through an existing one. And Nielsen says clients who are referred by a friend are 4 times more likely to buy from you. And there are services that help with this, and we'll talk about some of them. But it just makes sense because you want to think about your referral acquisition cost, not your customer acquisition cost. Everyone talks about customer acquisition cost. I like to think of it as referral acquisition cost. If you know your average lifetime value of a customer is, let's say, $1,000, then for your existing customers, you can spend up to $1,000 per lead that they send you and still make money. Now, I'm not saying spend $1,000, $995 on every one of your customers, and then hopefully you make $5 when they send you a lead. But that's the thing is you have a lot of margin to work with, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper and it's more fun. People will like you more, and you'll get more business. It's just makes sense overall. Some of the tools I use to help me achieve these human connections and weirdness is there's a program I really like called the Dream 100 program. It's a free book. You can get a Dream 100 book. You just need to pay shipping. Now, full disclosure, it is one of those things that has upsells along the way. You can say thanks or no thanks, depending on if you want the offers or not. But I don't want people to say, oh my God, it offered me a $500 program. Well, yeah, you can say no to that. But I'm just making that clear. But I love this book. I follow it. And it's what's helping us stay in business because I used to rely honestly just on face-to-face conferences. And it's helping us continue on our work. There's a company out there called Send Out Cards, which allows you to send physical cards out on an automated basis. They can even digitize your handwriting and have it look like it's your handwriting on there and your signatures. Client Giant's a great service. I use them a lot. They can send one-off gifts or subscription-based gifts. And they have multiple tiers from $10 a month all the way up to $250 a month, depending on how much love you want to give the client. And the cool thing about Client Giant is they do research on the person that they're sending to, and everything's customized to who they're sending to. So if they're really into a certain band, they might get, something from that tickets for that band concert or something or whatever it is. Buttsies allows you to make custom stuffed animals based on anything, logos, kids drawings, pets. They do pet recreations. TouchNote is an app that you can use to send postcards or greeting cards on your phone anywhere in the world for really cheap. Hallmark eCards allows you to send eCards. Another good eCard service is Paperless Post. Both are free and are allow you to send digital cards. Pasta Drop is although the company's out of business, that's how I sent that pasta. Pastadrop.com. They're on hiatus, not out of business, but they only open it up for orders every so often. And then Taco Gifter, the Taco Bell Taco Gifter we talked about, where you can send a taco to anybody you'd like, and for just a couple of bucks. And there's lots of things out there. You can be creative and find out where it works for you. And sometimes the weird ideas happen. My wife, she got these suckers, and she's like, these suckers are really good. I want more of these suckers. Then she looked at the company and found out they make custom suckers with your logos in them. So I bought a bunch for our company, and now those get sent out with the little Viewmaster slides and everything like that, and people like them. So you can be creative. Don't send the same swag. Nobody needs another T-shirt or another pen. Be creative and have it speak to who you are personally, because you want to be genuine. You really want to be genuine. All this only works if you are yourself and you show a little vulnerability. I recommend when you have these conversations, you show a little vulnerability to who you're communicating with, because it makes you human, it makes you more likable, and it makes you more relatable. A good thing of that is, I came out professionally as part of the LGBTQA+, community just a few months ago. And I got hundreds of DMs of support, thousands of hits on my website, and some not so nice comments too. But I had, the people I interact with, even if they might have a different opinion, it got them to know a side of me that they didn't know, not in a preachy way. And I wasn't like, hey, by the way, did you see my blog? It was just there because I know that people that engage with me usually follow me on Twitter or my content. And it's really helped me get closer to the people I interact with, both colleagues and friends. And being genuine really, really helps with that. So with that, my contact information's on the slide. If anyone has any questions or comments or thoughts, I'm happy to have a discussion. I try to keep these relatively short so that if there's time, people can ask any questions, or if not, you guys can go get another cup of coffee or grab a snack or a meal or whatever. So, Steve, I know that you do some of this stuff, like you sent penguin adoptions to people that bought one of your products randomly to people. That was super cool, and is very similar to this kind of vein.
Yeah, we've learned that from you.
I didn't get a penguin, by the way. I did not get an adopted penguin in my name.
Oh, you haven't yet?
No, but I'm also not one of your customers.
Yes, particularly over the last year or so, those things that have a nice personal touch for people. We get just yesterday, I get a tech newsletter. This one is a WordPress one. It comes in every week. And at the top of each newsletter, the two people that write it include a little personal note each week that may go off on a little tangent or may go off on something slightly unrelated to what the newsletter is about. But the whole effect is to make it feel warmer, to make me feel better about getting the newsletter and looking forward to it every week. Those little personal touches make a huge difference in 2020.
Yeah, for sure. I actually stole the penguin idea from you for somebody that was super into conservation. And so what we did is we adopted a penguin at their local zoo, but at a higher level. So their name's on the plaque at the actual exhibit. And so, and they got a nice little gift package. It was a zoo in Bristol, I think, because that was close to where they lived. So, you can be really creative, and it's fun. This type of stuff is fun, and that's why I like to do it.
One thing that we've used at least a couple of times before is the Cameo video service. And we got penguins at different zoos to send a message to our customers. The last one was at the Philadelphia Zoo. So the penguin zookeeper will send a little message and include a short video of the penguins flapping around.
Yeah, I've seen some of your cameos. That's awesome. And also, the nice part is, especially like if you can make I call it surprise and delight. If you can make your surprise and delight also support another initiative or a nonprofit at the same time while delighting your customers or your colleagues, then it's a win-win for everybody, because the zoos are probably hurting because they don't have visitors. So those cameos also help them get revenue to fund their work as well. So it's a win-win for everybody.
So I'm going to put you on the spot and try and pick your brain, and maybe the people who are in attendance as well. That this is probably the third time we've done a conference like this, and to be honest, at the end of 2020, it feels a little bit like it's time to change up the format a little bit. And I'm curious about what you think, Mike, and about what the people in the audience think as well, about whether something like this in 2021 would be better done perhaps in small breakout groups, or in smaller groups in some ways. It feels like perhaps the 40 to 45 minute slide deck is a little too cold. I wonder how we can make these events warmer and add even more human contact in a COVID world.
Yeah, so I attended a couple conferences this year that did a decent job of that. Actually, just this week, I attended a conference called the Link Up Show. And what their whole shtick is, they only had 3 talks during the conference. But what they did alternatively is they broke everybody up into small 20 person groups for one-on-one networking, and they had a topic. So for the hour, they had a MC who would let everyone introduce himself quickly, and then they would have an expert kind of curate a talk about, either marketing or networking or whatever it was, but you were never matched with the same people. So throughout the end of the whole day, you got to meet on a more personal level, 100 different people in a setting of like about 15 people every time. And then so they would do like talk, networking, and they would kind of do it every other. And one of their talks, and they had for every MC, for every room moderator, they were also a comedian. So that they also no seriously, like they were actually improv comedians that were there to try to like be a little funny with and then they had the expert on the topic. But it worked. And I would attend one of their events again in a heartbeat. CloudFest did a digital day in September where they didn't have any content that lasted more than 10 minutes. It was very fast paced, changing. I'm also a fan of the conferences that have some sort of a social element, like a virtual escape room, or like maybe like something fun that's different to break up the time, so it's not just like a wall of talks. Because what people do at conferences like this is they usually fit it inside their workday. Like, oh, I have an hour now, I'll pop on and listen to the mic. It's not my preferred person to listen to, and I don't blame you, but I have nothing to do, I guess I'll tune in. But if you're physically somewhere, you're there for the day. But let's be honest, the further the day goes on, more people are in the hallway talking to each other, less watching the content. So the more we can try to create those connections, I think would be better. But I think trying to take the physical conference format and just move it whole digitally is a little overplayed, and it's a little exhausting because it's to pay physically attention and not be in another tab or on your phone. It's not easy. So
yeah, I'm curious about whether any of the attendees have been to any successful online conferences that have really changed up the format. I guess what we may see is that the online conferences in 2021 end up vastly splintering. So you have a traditional conference format, which if you went to a hosting conference, if you went to a DevOps conference, you went to a Joomla conference, Drupal, WordPress, you went to a manufacturing conference, you probably ended up in a very similar format for each of them, with the 45-minute sessions and then a hallway track for 10 minutes. It may be that in 2021, each online conference looks vastly different from the next one. One has comedians, one has penguins, one has little 10-minute sessions, one has 45-minute sessions followed by breakouts. Everyone looks different.
Yeah, I think we're going to see, I think 2021 is going to be the year of digital event growth. 2020 was the year of stopping the bleeding. Like, we just need to get digital, our events canceled, we need to get online and figure it out. I think platforms like Zoom and GoToWebinar and some of these other companies and platforms are going to use the next couple of years and try to find ways to innovate and not just find a way to display a slide deck and a video stream. So I think we're going to see 2021 and 2022 a lot of new ideas in the online event space that isn't just, let's just take a webinar and make it bigger.
I know some people in attendance are planning for the Joomla Day USA next year, and I know they're brainstorming some ideas, and so it's a good time to think about it. I know they're still in the planning stage, and so I guess we may see an online Joomla Day USA next year with some of these ideas incorporated.
Yeah, I'd love to see another Joomla event. I loved it when I was on the Joomla World Conference team, and I loved all my Joomla World Conference experience. So love to see a Joomla Day USA. I would definitely attend. be it virtually or physically, whichever it happens to be.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much indeed, Mike.
Yeah, my pleasure.